Hi, I'm Karen McKinnon. I am a board member with the Comox Valley Hospice Society, and I'm sitting here today with Linda. Linda,
Hi.
thanks so much for being here with us today.
You're very welcome. I'm happy to be here.
Could you tell me a little bit about your experience with Comox Valley Hospice?
My experience with hospice just extends over more than 3 decades. I just can't believe it. When we first moved here, I did a little bit of volunteer work in their office, just helping with some of the clerk office stuff, which is really nice. And I became a Rotarian, and our Rotary Club is one of the 3 Rotarian clubs in the Valley that just worked for quite a few years raising money to, first of all, get a building for hospice, and when that didn't work out, the beautiful St. Joe's Hospice was created. Then my husband died, and very unexpectedly, and I got a call within a couple of days from hospice asking if I would like a grief counselor to come and talk with me, and I used that opportunity, and that was wonderful support. The last thing, which came full circle, was I decided to go back to the university, and for my railroads and degree program, I had to have a major project with a community sponsor. So hospice became my sponsor for my project, and we did a project called the Enhancement of Bereavement Support Services in the Comox Valley, because they wanted to extend the palliative and hospice aspect of things into bereavement support care for family members as well. So it's been kind of interesting when you ask me that. I go, oh yes, it has been little connections here and there over 3 decades.
That's really interesting, Linda. It's interesting to me the thread hospice has had in your life. How you first showed up as a volunteer, and then hospice was able to show up for you, and then you continued to engage with hospice academically and in your role as an active community member. I want to go back to that time when you did lose your husband and hospice was there for you. Can you share with me a little bit about the impact that that had in your grief process?
Well, because it was so fresh, you are totally as the one left behind, out of it emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually. You're just not functioning. And so to have someone just come along and share the natural process, because I was only in my 40s at the time, so I hadn't had any experience with death, especially such a close relationship. So to have someone come and just explain some of those expected processes, and it just was reassuring, it was calming, even though I was sort of not really with it at the time, I just was a little bit of a grounding, I think, that I really needed at the time.
So Linda, tell me a little bit about what you've done with your will.
Well, it's kind of creative. I don't have children or a husband or a lot of family, and so it was kind of, I really had to think about it for what I wanted to do for my estate and my bequests. I have a lot of some very close friends, and so what I've done is I have given my special friends a financial bequest, which is a specific amount of a fund. Hopefully they'll do something fun with it. Then the residue of that, after those bequests are given, then there's a residue left over, and that has been divided into 10 parts. And I've chosen half a dozen nonprofits, including hospice, and assigned 1 or 2 or 3 parts to each of those nonprofits to give them a bequest as well. And the great news is that who's ever the accountant doing the estate, that they will receive from those charities tax receipts, which will help with the estate, with taxes. And at the same time, I sort of had to let go of worrying about the amount. My friends will get a specific amount. That I wanted to take care of first. And then, if I die tomorrow, there's a big chunk left for these nonprofits, which would be lovely. However, if I'm like my mom and my grandma and my great-grandma, I'm going to be around for a while. So there may not be a great big chunk left at the very end, but that's okay too, because it's kind of like a thought behind it, and we'll just see how it goes.
You know, I can speak from the perspective of a nonprofit. Anytime a nonprofit is thought of, it matters.
Just reminded me of the Dalai Lama, his quote on giving: if you think you're too small to make a difference, you have never been in bed with a mosquito.
That's so good, and I appreciate that you're willing to talk about tax and death with us, because those aren't everybody's favorite top two topics. So I know you've put hospice in your will. Can you tell me why you made that decision?
Well, I think it just came full circle because over these, as I said, more than 3 decades, hospice just seemed to pop up in my life in both the hard, rough times and in the really happy, giving times. It's just such a very worthwhile activity and support that they give to people. The hospice beds, after all our fundraising that were put together, were so tranquil and beautiful and soft and conducive to helping the staff as well as the person that was at end of life have the most calm and supportive and loving end to life. And so there are a lot of us coming up into that place in the valley, and I just think it's just a wonderful, wonderful group.
Well, the need is definitely growing, and we're really thankful for people in our community who see that and support us in so many different ways. And you've been a longtime friend to hospice. So thanks so much for just taking the time to share some of your personal story with us today.
You're very welcome. Thank you for asking me.